2-0046 in Washington County Court of Common Pleas. Prior to that motion being made, there was a large discussion between Mr. Sweat discussed some stuff, Ms. Derrick discussed some stuff. It sounded to me, at least, as if that was going to be a future motion down the line, because a motion wasn't on the table at the time the discussion was going on. So that sounded to me like that's a future motion that you may need to consider. The words were used by Ms. Dare that with that, after she read the item number on the agenda, she said, with that, we have a large motion to consider, which sounded like a separate motion. After that, after you guys talked for a while, Ms. Dare made a motion. She made the motion that was on the agenda and the motion that I just stated. Mr. Trax seconded it, roll call and discussion, where there was a brief comment from Mr. Eskin, and then we voted. But to me, we voted for the motion, which was to approve or deny the mediation settlement that occurred on March 10th before Judge Lucas concerning the Finleyville-Alrama Road Storage Project litigation. All of the other stuff about grinder pumps, I'm unclear that that was part of the motion because it wasn't stated in the motion. It seems that Peters Creek Sanitary is upset with whether or not it is or it isn't at their public meeting. Robert's Rules of Order state that a motion is made, and then if seconded, a discussion goes on. There was a large discussion prior to item number 13 on the agenda being read, and I'm unclear whether or not we voted for that motion that I just read or something else. If you could clarify that,
sure.
Particularly clear for me.
I think it was clear that the vote of this board was to go with option 1, which was grinder pumps. That was before the board at the direction of Judge Lucas. He wanted both boards to review the settlement discussions and the proposals that were advanced and vote on it. Let me just give some background, because I guess there's a lot of misunderstanding about where we stand on this. For those of you who have not ever been involved in a court-ordered mediation, it lasted an entire afternoon. In and out of Judge Lucas's chambers in the Washington County Court of Common Pleas. He had appointed attorney Tom Vreeland to serve as the mediator. And when mediation occurs, the judge specifically ordered individuals and named them to be present. We go into separate rooms. The mediator starts back and forth trying to understand the issues, understanding the legal claims that are being filed, and is there room for common ground and compromise. And the mediator's job is to try to promote a settlement. And I can tell you that at the outset of the mediation, the judge gave everyone a stern lecture that he really does not care about Peters Creek Sanitary Authority or Union Township. He cared about those residents who are living in a dire situation on Finleyville-Alrama Road. He emphasized that, and he said, I want you guys to work out something and solve this problem. We went back and forth. There were two issues that Peters Creek wanted to mediate. They wanted to mediate the Finleyville-Alrama sewer project. They also wanted to mediate the issue of whether or not Mr. Lawson should be removed from the Peters Creek Sanitary Authority Board. We made it clear at the outset we weren't there to speak for Mr. Lawson. That was his decision. He had independent counsel. He'd make his own decision. We were there to talk about Finleyville-Alrama. At around the 4 o'clock hour, it was agreed that we would pay for option 1, the grinder pumps, everything associated with it, and that we would just give the money to Peters Creek and they would do the project. Since they want their engineers to review it, they want to approve the design, they want to inspect, why not just do it? At the 11th hour, Peters Creek came back and said, well, our engineers think think that a better fit would be a lift station. And we had brief discussions on that. You understand that this came up around 4 o'clock. We were done at 4:30. Those supervisors who participated in the mediation thought that was a very workable idea because it would eliminate the grinder pumps, which can be problematic. It would also create a potential down the road for more development in Union Township with a lift station. It is correct that Peters Creek said they would fund the difference, but you got to finish the sentence. If Mr. Lawson would resign, okay, that was not in the cards. Mr. Vreeland was in chambers with our members when we were discussing these items. He said, well, what are we looking at for the lift station? So we got Jamie Harshman on the phone, on a speakerphone. And Mr. Vreeland was there and heard it. And Jamie was caught off guard. You know, we were asking him pointed questions, how much is it going to cost, what's it going to take? I mean, and he said, well, you know, I don't know. He stuttered a little bit, but he said, you know, maybe 10% more. And you understand, this township is looking at a $500,000 expense for option 1, which is grinder pumps. That 537 plan has been approved by the DEP. All the permitting has been approved. That one is shovel ready, okay? And what was important to the members that were present at the mediation is that we don't want there to be a delay. We need to jump on this problem. So if we're not looking at more than a few months to restructure things, we would recommend to the sitting board to absorb the additional expense. All right. Now, if you look at the transcript, and after all this was done, we said, yeah, we're in favor of option 2, which is lift station. If you look at the transcript, you'll see that Mr. Vreeland, in reporting the status of the mediation, talked about the 2 different plans that were out there. Option 1 being the grinder pumps, option 2 being the lift station. And he said that the parties have agreed to pursue option number 2, the lift station. Okay? Pursue means there's a lot of questions that have to be answered. After this was done, this board then instructed Mr. Harshman to thoroughly analyze the issue. And what he came back with is my estimate that it was going to be approximately the 2020 numbers with 10% has been increased by 25% based upon all of the costs and delays that the industries are now seeing. He projects that the total 2022 estimate would be $976,000, almost $500,000 more. All right, that's a big problem in terms of putting that obligation on the taxpayers of Union Township for 20 residents, where we do have a plan that the DEP has approved. Now, more importantly than the cost, is the second part where he has talked to the engineer for PCSA. He has talked to the DEP, and for us to convert the plan from grinder pumps, option 1, to a lift station, option 2, would delay the project by anywhere from 12 to 18 months. In the opinion of the supervisors I talked to, that is absolutely a deal breaker. They are not willing to see this condition continue for that period of time when we have a plan that has been approved and it's totally funded. So when that information came back to us, the board said our vote is option 1 because we are not going to delay this project for 18 more months. You have to understand that if we go lift station, they have to amend the 537 plan. The new design has to be done. There has to be time for public comment. We're looking at a minimum of a year before this can even go to bid and design. Pardon me?
Plus the pumping.
Plus the continued pumping. I mean, I think you're pumping out a tank up there to the tune of $1,000 for every 3 or 4 days.
$1,000 for a week.
That's general fund, that's taxpayers' money. So you need to understand that we want to mediate, but our bigger concern is not making Peters Creek happy, it's solving this problem. It's terrible. And so our motion was to go with option one, Peters Creek was to go with option two. We have contacted the mediator. We've let him know that we have pursued option two. The numbers and the time frame do not work for our residents. So it's my understanding, Attorney Gallagher's on vacation this week, that Tom Breland, Attorney Breland will be talking to Judge Lucas. I'm certain that Judge Lucas can issue an order and say, everybody get back in here and talk about this. That's the position of this board as it's concerned right now, and it's based upon a extremely competent and pointed engineering evaluation on what it would take to go with option two, the lift station.
So I have 2 points. One, I'm not sure that answered my question. Is the motion that we passed to follow the mediation settlement that was agreed upon, was that the motion?
The motion was to, based on mediation, to go with option one. That was the motion.
Okay, so for the record,
There was no agreement in the mediation. There was a proposal.
I'm talking about the motion
Yeah.
that we made. I'm
Well,
making
I have
sure
to see, okay, you keep referring to the motion. I don't have it in front of me. Is it?
I wasn't at the mediation, so I'm just going with the motion that I voted on.
Partially typed.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see it.
Okay.
Typed to thoroughly answer
For
your
the
question.
record, I want to say what I voted on was the motion that was on the agenda.
Were you in favor of option one or two?
Well, I
Based on
wasn't
what I
part of,
just told
I
you.
wasn't part of the mediation. What I am very concerned with is that we are about to cause litigation that could make this project go much longer than the difference in the, if we did not vote to follow through with what the other, what, I wasn't there, but if you guys did agree to something in
You
court.
didn't agree. You don't agree
Well,
in
I'm only
mediation.
saying-
You don't agree. There's-
Okay, because it was called a mediation settlement in the agenda.
With instructions from the judge, go back to your boards and vote.
So you're saying there was no settlement that day? Okay.
There was a settlement in principle. But if you read the transcript, it says we would pursue option two. We would pursue it. Are you saying you want to go with option two and spend an extra
I'm not
$500,000
saying
and
either
delay this
way.
for 18 months?
I'm concerned that we're gonna delay the project further if,
Judge Lucas will not let that happen.
I'm concerned that litigation costs will go into it instead of going towards a solution for these people. I know that they are awaiting it, and I'm concerned that litigation with PCSA will make it go worse. I wasn't at the mediation, as you know. Now, as you know, I had some severe concerns with who was at the mediation. I asked you to get an advisory opinion from the Ethics Commission because Mr. Lawson was named in his own personal lawsuit with.
And he abstained from the motion.
I get it. But I wasn't called that day. I wasn't called when you guys decided to settle this mediation. We were told to stay by the phone. I don't know if Mr. Eskin was called, but I wasn't called in any part of that process.
Because the judge said, go back to your boards at your public meetings. We're doing this under the judge identified who he wanted that mediation. That's by a court order.
Now, I do have.
And again, you're talking about litigation and delay. I can tell you, I'll favor that all day long over option two, which would be an 18-month
I'm not
delay.
debating option one or option two. I'm asking if a motion that was made was to follow, I mean, it stated to approve or deny the mediation settlement. That's what was in the agenda. It sounded like a settlement. If it is something else.
I'm not going to argue legal with you.
Yeah. So the other problem that I have.
I'm not advising this board go with option two.
I'm not
That's not what she
advising
said.
either way. I'm clarifying a motion that was made. I
Well, there
wanted
are more
for the
point- there are
record
many
that
points to
the
that.
motion that okay, but I'm making it for the record that what I voted on was the motion that was made.
Right.
Which-
To pursue option two.
Well,
And we pursued it.
what I voted on was to accept the mediation settlement that you guys agreed to in court, whatever that may be. If you say that was option two, have at it, but I'm just making sure that
I gotta read them. I didn't read them.
now,
I didn't read it yet. I gotta read it.
the other problem that I have is since you're leaving early, when I asked you for an advisory opinion from the Ethics Commission, you also added myself into the advisory opinion, but you presented it to the Ethics Commission as if I was asking, which I wasn't, so please
Well,
don't.
I have an email from you asking
Not
for an ethics committee, absolutely
Oh,
from you.
not for me.
Yes.
No. I have all my emails here.
You wanted ethics opinions.
I
or
wanted
you
an
could
ethics
vote.
opinion, to ask the participation of Mr. Lawson and Ms. Dare to what extent they could participate.
What about your
Meaning that-
participation?
Well, what I'm saying is, I didn't ask you. The Ethics Commission says I have no conflict of interest, as you
Right.
know.
Right.
Now, but I never asked you to ask them that about me. And my offense to it is that you attached my name to it as if I did. I'm okay with that you asked, but put down who asked. If it's you, if it's Heather, if it's Chucky, if it's Rick, if it's Dave, put them that they asked, because I didn't ask. I knew I didn't have a conflict.
You asked for them, they asked about you.
Then put that in the Ethics Commission thing. I'm sure they did. But don't write the Ethics Commission as if Michelle Dupree asked it, because she didn't.
I need to give a little opinion on whether you could vote.
Yeah, well then write the Ethics Commission and
you've
say
got-
Heather wants to know. But don't write the Ethics Commission and say
Don't
Michelle
lecture
Dupree
me,
wants to know.
Michelle. Don't
I'm
lecture
saying it's
me.
my name, Gary
Don't
Sweat.
raise your
It is
voice
my
to me.
name. Don't, it is my name and you
I'll
are not free
practice
to
law
use
the
it
way I
whenever you
see
want
fit
to.
to
Let
serve
me
this
tell you,
board.
do not add my name to something that I did
I'll
not say
make legal
and sign
decisions
it.
as I see fit.
Oh, don't make them for me.
I'll make them for the board.
See how far I
Do
can
not
I'm
attach,
done with her.
for the record, nobody here, attach my name
I
to something
represent
that I
the
didn't.
board,
That's
not you.
fine, you can, but
You
you
do
don't write that
represent us.
Michelle
I
Dupree
represent-
said
she is on
something
the
that
board.
she
Okay,
didn't
okay.
on the
say.
board, Gary.
If
She is on
Michelle
the board.
Dupree
Can
did
you-
not say
No.
something,
This is off.
Yeah.
There has to be order in this room.
There is gotta be order. He represents every one of them. Are you
you know,
kidding
if
me?
anybody puts down that Chuck Trapp said this, or Heather Dare said that, or they wanna know this, that was in writing from an attorney to the Ethics Commission. And Michelle Dupree didn't say it, and I am offended by it. You wanna put it, you wanna ask the Ethics Commission about me, you go ahead, but you put the person who's asking's name on it, not mine. You can put down the time, Michelle Dupree's leaving. By the way,
Did you say
I
good?
did not approve the bills,
Did you say good?
because Gary.
Nice guy.
Is that what you said, Gary?
Yes, he did.
Well, this
I
is-
just heard him.
You represent me, right?
He said
Gary?
yes.
Gary
Well,
would
I
like to say it's
represent
good
the
that I'm
majority of the
leaving.
board.
Oh, the
Mm.
majority,
The majority.
not all of them,
Okay,
huh?
no, I represent
Not
the
all of
majority.
them, the majority of the board. Gary represents the majority of the board, not all of them. Just so you heard it from Gary.
Yeah, I heard it. Oh my God.
Disgusting.
Oh, thank you for bringing me up again.
Yeah, again and again. This
Maybe
is
Mrs.
insane.
Dare's husband would like to talk about my house some more. That happened like 8 meetings